So today we're going to be reading a book called Famous First Ladies. Before we get started, we're going to write down some of our vocabulary words that we're going to see throughout our book. Okay? So, has anyone ever heard of the word assassinated? Assassinated or assassination, Jack?
It means like you're really good at some stuff.
Okay, what else do you think, Kira?
Like someone breaks into your house, assassinates someone, like takes them, and wants to kill them.
Okay, that's a really good, that's more on the idea. What it means is like, have you ever heard of someone being assassinated, like one of our presidents in the past being assassinated? It means that what happens is someone famous is murdered. So that murdered, what's murdered mean?
Taken away and killed.
Yep, killed for political reasons. Do you know what political is? Like politics, like the presidents, they have politics that they deal with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So assassinated. So let's write down that word because we're going to come across that word today in our book. So assassinated. Can we all see that? Assassinated. Good. Okay. What about the word discrimination? We talked a lot about discriminating when we talked about Martin Luther King earlier this year. Do we remember what discrimination means? He was discriminated against. So what would discrimination mean, Jack?
Like he would talk out of something and people didn't like that and they would use violence.
How did they treat him? Yeah, they used violence. So discrimination means that there's bias or people don't like a certain group of people or a kind of person for no reason, just because they certainly don't like them, maybe because of their skin color, maybe because of what they believe, because that's what happened to Martin Luther, right? Martin Luther King Jr.? Yeah. So it's bias in the treatment of a person or a certain group of people. So let's write discrimination. So how could you use the word discrimination in a sentence?
Are we supposed to have like all the words?
No, if you don't have room, you can just write one at a time, and that's fine. Discrimination. That's a chunk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a D or an A?
Discrimination.
D. That's what
Atta girl. That is a long word.
T-I-O-N.
Shun, yep. Good. What about the word immunizations? Immunizations. Have you ever gone to the doctor before when you were little and you had to get shots? And you had to keep getting shots and your mom would be like, today we have to go to the doctor to get shots. I'm really sorry, but we have to keep getting our immunizations. Because
Be healthy.
yes, to be healthy, to protect you from diseases.
Like, when we first went to school, I had to get 4 shots on my leg at the same time.
Okay, so you had to get
I
immunizations.
had to get 1, 2, and
See, so that makes sense. You connected it. So, immunizations. What do you think it starts with?
A.
I.
I.
Good.
A.
M.
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 U. And U. Oh, and M. U. Z. N. N.
There you go.
I.
So, can you both connect the time that you've had immunizations?
Yeah.
Very good.
M.
Mule. M.
M.
E. U. Mu. Mu. I'm telling you the letter O.
and
L.
And what if you hear the word
E.
because it has that long
E.
It has that long U, which makes there an E at the end. Good. Okay, go sit down.
I have to take a nap.
Okay, we will after we finish the guided reading groups. Okay, go sit down and keep working. Okay,
I still eat up my nose.
if someone is influential, think of someone in your life. Has anyone been influential? Do we even know what influential means? No.
He said I have to take one during
read this out.
I know. I understand. We will get it done. Okay. Alexis just finished hers, so then you can get started on yours after I finish this group. Okay. Okay. Influential. Influential means having the power to shape events or having the power to do something. Maybe your moms and dads are influential in your lives because they do so much for you. Okay? Influential. T-I-A-L. Very good. And our last word that we're going to talk about is actually a disease that people used to have back in the day. It was called polio. Have you ever heard of polio? You have? And where have you heard that word before?
My mom told me.
Your mom told you about maybe someone she knew who had it growing up? Okay, what else?
I heard somebody talking about it at the store in an aisle when we were going to check out.
So you've made that connection before with hearing that word very good. So polio. It was a disease that actually affected people's brains and their spinal cords.
What's a spinal?
It's in your back.
This?
Your spine.
It hurt really bad.
Yes, it would. It would affect the way that people could walk. Some people couldn't even walk after it. So let's write polio. It was a disease that they hadn't come up with a cure for a long, long time ago. And so a lot of people, like my mom's teachers growing up, a lot of them had polio, she told me, because they didn't have a cure for it and they didn't know what it was. And so they would have something wrong with their brain and their back, their spinal cords.
Why would their brain get
It just connects, your brain connects with your spinal cord, and it attacks them at the same time. So it just affects your overall body and the way that it functions.
So it goes like this, and it goes here.
Okay, so today we're going to read about the famous First Lady. So what do you think are going to be some of the things we read about based on our vocabulary words? Maybe we'll read about some presidents who have been assassinated, who've had polio. What else? Kira?
And the girl on the front, that looks like she is famous. She had polio.
Maybe she had polio. That's a good prediction. So we're going to read a book about the famous First Lady. So let's take a picture walk so we can kind of begin to get an idea of what we're going to be reading about, and then we can begin. And when we're reading, remember to look for those vocabulary words and what they mean so that you can connect them to those stories about the grocery store and hearing about your mom talking about it, okay? Awesome. This reflection is over my second lesson that I videoed, and it will be over the differentiation of instruction. And for this lesson, it was just a short lesson on vocabulary. I was with students who were they're the highest students. One from a different classroom who actually comes to join a student from the classroom that I'm student teaching in. And the lesson was the vocabulary was very intense and difficult and challenging, and the differentiation of instruction is based on what each group knows and can do, from a lot lower of a group to a, at ready learning level, to this high group who can go through words and vocabulary quickly and understand the words and retain the words and be able to find them throughout the reading and be able to tell me how they're used and what they mean. And so that's how the differentiation of instruction works, and that's how it worked that day with vocabulary. There were some groups who were super low. This group, I was able to talk about immunizations, and they were able to connect them to times when they had shots at the doctor's office or polio and hearing about it at the grocery store. I think it was really positive about how I was able to connect those events with the vocabulary words that we were talking about, and that's what I always try to do, but sometimes it has to be broken down a lot further with the lower level, just because they need it to be, brought to their level a lot easier to understand, whereas the higher group, you can go through the information a lot quicker and also talk to them at a lot higher level of intelligence because they're understanding what you're saying and they're able to retain that information and apply it to their own personal connections and what they're reading throughout the book. So I thought that was very positive. Some challenges that arose would be some students in certain groups get antsy or get unfocused, because sometimes material with vocabulary can be too difficult or too easy, so they get unmotivated. But what I did, and this wasn't in the video that I recorded, but I've been having kids get out of their seats before or during when they get antsy, and I have them do 10 jumping jacks. And they think it's this awesome, crazy, get out of my seats and be wild, but it's 10 jumping jacks. I mean, they count them out silently in their head, and then they sit back down. It's almost like a brain break, but it completely gets them refocused, and they think it's fun, and I'm doing it so that I can refocus them and get their brain back on track. But I went to the Keen conference in Topeka last weekend, and I listened to a speaker, and she talked about engagement, and so I've really tried to bring that back into what I'm doing in the classroom, and I think it's been really beneficial, and the kids love it. They think that it's fun, and they don't even think that they're, it's not even anything to do with their brain or how they're cooperating or working in the classroom. So that was really neat, and I've been able to do that, and I think that it really has helped students improve and stay focused. So that's something that I've learned and that I've been applying to the classroom, so that's really positive. Another challenge that arose would be just students coming and asking me questions, because I'm taking on that role as the teacher in the classroom, and I try and direct them to work independently, and we go through directions before anything begins, but sometimes there's those kids who still have those questions, and they're still wanting to come up to the teacher's desk and ask for help. So I try to be patient, and I try to be, kind and walk kids through things, but at the same time, I want to work with that group who I'm with, because it's, those 15 minutes that I have, and so I try my best, but that's something I can definitely work on, to just recognize that those students I'm with are the ones that I have to give my attention to, and those other kids will have that time later when they're with me as well. So I try and do my best and differentiate instruction. And some of those kids, one of them came up to me and asked how to spell mule. It was one of the lower students in the classroom, and after watching myself, I basically gave away how to spell it, but I still walked them through U-ul. And if it's a long U, what comes at the end? So I'm trying to bring that phonemic awareness with the long vowel and the E at the end into also what I'm teaching, even if it's not in the small group I'm working with, so that the kids who I am giving my attention to, they're still receiving that educational benefit. So that was positive. I turned a negative into a positive, I think, so that was also great. Overall, I think that the lesson went well. The students were able to connect experiences with vocabulary, and I think that that's really important. I think that making those connections is going to bring meaning to words and to what they're reading. So I thought that was really great. Overall, I just will continue doing engagement where I can get them active and involved, whether it's through connections, through getting up and doing jumping jacks, just anything to get their brain moving and to get them refocused, I think is really important, and I think that's a great way to handle those situations and regain the focus of the small group. So that's my reflection for the differentiation of instruction.